Boys, this week, as you know in maths, we've been covering a few things, factors and multiplication, and tomorrow we are going to carry on with long multiplication. So that's multiplying two-digit numbers, like 23, by another two-digit number, like 16. And so I'd like you to watch the video that I've uploaded and made for you, and watch it a few times, and think about some questions that you maybe don't understand or some things you want to add, and come to school tomorrow ready to tackle this new problem. It's a little bit different to what we've done before, but it should be exciting and fun, and so I hope that you enjoy the video that I've uploaded for you. Alright, so let's start. If I gave you a problem such as this, 16 times by 4, you would know that 16 is made out of a 10 and a 6, and that you would have to multiply both parts by 4. So we would first go 6 times 4, and we would get our answer. Then we would go 4 times 10, and we would get our answer, and then we would take our two answers and add them together. So, in other words, we would get 6 times 4 would be 24, and we'd have 4 times 10, which would be 40. And when we added them together, we would get 64. Now, we know that this is a very long way to do it. So we're going to have another look. We've also learned that we can go 16 times 4 this way around. And we can go 6 times 4, and we know that 6 times 4 is 24. And we know that our unit must stay in our units, and our 10 must go and join our 10s. We know then that 4 groups of 10, or 1 times 4, if we want to do it the short way, would be 4, or we must remember it's 40, and we added another 2 10s, which would give us 6 10s, and we would land up with 64. Now you boys are all very good at doing that, and we've been practicing that a lot, but what happens when we have an extra 10? We practiced as well that if we went 16 times 40, that would be the same as going 16 times by 4 times by 10. So we would work out our 16 times 4, which we knew would be 64, and times that by 10, and that would give us 640. So we know all of those, and that's great. Okay, so what happens now if I said to you 16 times 12? Now we've got two-digit number 16 and a two-digit number 12, and we want to multiply them to get our answer. We can set it up exactly the same way as we have all the other times when we're multiplying two digits by one digit. 16 times 12. So my problem is I don't have one digit, I've got two. I have a 10 over here, and I have a unit over here. And I need to find out what my answer is. So watch carefully. When I have my 16 times 12, I need to remember that I am actually going 16 times 10 times 2. So to do it this way, I need to have a look at how I'm going to set it out. I'm first going to work with my unit. So this is the 2 that I'm working with now. And I'm going to use the top line, so I ruled myself 2 blocks of squares. And my first line I'm going to set out as going 16 times 2. And I'm not going to worry about my 10 yet. So actually, what you could say is let's let's not worry about our 10. Let's just worry about our 2. I've made my 10 invisible just for the minute, and I'll show you why in a minute. If I said 6 times 2, 6 2's, I would get my answer as 12. Just hang on one second. Right, there we go. And I would go multiply across the same way as I usually do, and I would go 1 times 2, which would be 2, and I would add my extra 10 in, and I would get 32 as my answer. We should all agree that that is correct. Now I can say, let's not forget that we actually do have a 10 hiding there, but I've used up my 2 now. Underneath this 2, we know that a 12 is made of a 10 and a 2. I've used my 2, so what I have left now is a 10. So on my bottom row, I'm going to go 16 times 10. This bottom row of squares that you've ruled, this wide equals line, is for your tens. You know that when you're multiplying by 10, the number always ends in a 0. And that's because if I said 16 times 10, my answer would be 160. So it is much easier for us to say 16 times 10 I know is going to end in a 0. So let me use my 0. And I'm going to go 16 times 1, which will be 16. Or I can say 1 times 6 over here is 6. And 1 times 1 is 1. Now all I have to do is add my two numbers together. So I'm going to get 2 and 0 will be 2. 6 and 3 will be 9. And I've got my 1 extra, and that is 192. And there we have multiplying by double digits in the short method, short easy method. Alright, let's try another one. Let's try 25 times 14. Okay, let's go. So we're going to set it up in our columns, hundreds, tens and units, just the same way as we did on the previous slide and when we did multiplying by a single digit. So we're going to go 25, and underneath it we're going to go 14. And on the last slide I don't think I mentioned it, but you need to make sure that you count yourself 2 rows of blocks before you rule another line. And then you need your final answer equals. So on your squared paper in your books, you will count 1, 2, 3 rows of squares. The first 2 are for your working out answers, and the last row is for your answer. Okay, so we are going to remember that when I'm multiplying by 14, 14 is made up of a 10 and a 4. So I must multiply my 4. We're going to start with the unit first and get an answer for 25 times 4 on the top row, and then I'm going to get an answer for 24 times 10 on the bottom row. So it'll look like this if I put it here. I'm first going to go 25 times 4, which I'll work out first, and then I'm going to go 25 times 10, which I'll do afterwards. Alright, remembering that we're going to just ignore the 10 for now, and I'm only going to be working with my unit over here. So if I was working out 25 times 4, I would go 4 times 5, and my answer would be, that's right, 20. I would then go 4 times 2, or 20 groups of 4, or 4 times 2 tens, and I would get my answer as 8 tens, and then another 2 would be 100. So in other words, if I said 4 times 2, it would be 8, plus an extra 2 would make 10 tens, which is the same as 100. So that would be my answer. 4 times 5 would be 20. 4 times 2 is 8, plus our extra 2 tens would be 10, and that gives us 100. And you should know just by mental maths that 25 times 4 is 100, so we are correct for that row. Okay, so now we're going to work with our rows of 10. You could probably also work out in your head, because you're very clever, that 25 times 10 would be 250. But pretty soon you're going to be given much bigger numbers. So we're going to do this anyway. Knowing that our number is going to end in a 10, I'm going to use my 10 and I'm going to put it down at the bottom. And it is very, very important that you always have a 0 to start with on this line, because you are multiplying by a 10. Now it's easy, because now it's just 25 times 1. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 2 is 2. If this part is confusing at the top, you could just do it this way. 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 2 is 2. I take my two answers and I add them together. So I'll get 0, I will get 5, and I will get 3. And my final answer would be 350. 25 times 14 is 350. Easy as that.